The gravel crunched under my tires like tiny bones as I pulled up to the Pinecrest Estates Community Center. That aggressively charming converted barn the HOA loved to brag about in every newsletter. String lights dripped from the rafters like fake goodwill, and the air smelled of mulled wine and desperation. It was the annual holiday gala, supposedly to celebrate community harmony, but everyone knew it was Karen Lockwood's annual coronation. She'd been HOA president for 6 straight years, and tonight she planned to remind us all why. I killed the engine of my rental and checked the rearview mirror. Navy silk dress, check. Low bond, check. Calm face that refused to crack, check. I did not look like the problem resident Karen had spent 2 years painting me as, the crazy single woman who painted her Victoria's shade of sage that was 3 Pantone numbers off approved beige, who dared run a permitted short-term rental that actually made money, and who kept insisting she had a fiancé nobody had ever met. I stepped out. The valet kid in his little green vest gave me the same pitying smile everyone else would in about 10 minutes. Inside, the vaulted space pulsed with 250 residents in velvet and sequins, all orbiting the champagne tower like moths around Karen's ego. I'd barely cleared the coat check when her voice sliced through the jazz quartet like a nail file. "Oh look, Ava's here alone again," Karen was telling a cluster of bored wives near the entrance, her silver bob gleaming under the chandeliers. She wore her signature pearls and the custom HOA sash that read president in tiny gold letters, as if anyone could forget. We keep telling her there's no shame in being single at 35, but she keeps spinning this tale about a fiancé who's always parking or working late. It's tragic. Really. We just play along to keep the peace. Aunt Carol, yes, actual Aunt Carol. Because my own parents had moved into Pinecrest 2 years ago and immediately drank the HOA Kool-Aid, clucked her tongue. Ask her about him if you want to laugh. Last month he was in Tokyo on business. This week he's probably circling the block looking for a legal parking spot that doesn't violate the 2-inch curb rule. I stepped into the light. Karen didn't flinch. She turned, eyes scanning me like a property inspector hunting for violations. Finding none, she smiled all teeth. Zero soul. "Ava, darling, you made it. And look at you still solo." What a surprise. "Ryan's parking," I said smoothly. The circle of pearls exchanged glances and muffled giggles. Karen actually tinkled a laugh that made my stomach flip. "Of course he is," she cooed, patting my arm with the gentleness of a python. "He's always parking, or traveling, or existing in that mysterious place where only Ava can see him. It's fine. Sweetheart, you don't have to pretend with us. We're basically family here in Pinecrest." She turned back to her court, dismissing me like a non-compliant mailbox. "Go get a drink. Ava, you look like you need one after another long day of running a business in a residential zone." I walked away, spine straight, feeling the whispers settle on my shoulders like the HOA fines I'd already paid twice this year. Poor Ava, delusional Ava, making up men and thinking her little Victorian could defy the covenant. I wove through the crowd, nodding at neighbors who now looked at me with that special mix of pity and amusement. My eyes weren't hunting alcohol. They were hunting my father. I spotted him near the head table, Mark Thompson, retired accountant, now proud Pinecrest board treasurer, laughing with the councilman while clutching a thick blue folder like it was the Holy Grail. The folder didn't belong at a gala. It belonged at a closing table or a courtroom. Reinforced corners, legal size, the kind you use when you want signatures, not small talk. His knuckles were white. I felt my sister Sloane slide up beside me in her shimmering gold dress. "You came," she purred, linking arms and steering me toward the thickest part of the crowd. "Mom, sorry. Karen said you might be too embarrassed about the whole fake fiancé thing." "It's not fake. Sloane." She squeezed my arm. It's okay. Ava, we're just worried. It's not normal to lie like this at your age. But don't worry. Karen and Dad have a plan to take the pressure off. You'll be so much happier without all those burdens. I stopped walking. What does that mean? She blinked innocently. Just that we want you free of stress. Come say hi to Brianna. She's the star tonight. Try not to make it about yourself for once. We reached the center where Brianna, the golden neighbor's daughter whose engagement party the HOA had hijacked for community spirit, was holding court. Karen materialized like a shark. He's not here. Brianna, she announced loud enough to quiet half the room. Ava's fiancé is detained indefinitely. Laughter rippled, sharp, eager. Karen turned to me, eyes glittering. Actually, we have a little community housekeeping to handle tonight. A special toast. We need you up front. Ava. My phone buzzed in my clutch. I didn't need to look. Ryan, parking. 7 minutes. Do not sign anything. 7 minutes. Ryan Hale wasn't imaginary. He was a corporate attorney who specialized in crushing overreaching HOAs, the kind who viewed Karen Lockwood types as light appetizers. He was the only person who had ever looked at Pinecrest Estates and seen exactly what it was, a pretty cage run by a smiling tyrant. I smoothed my dress and let them lead me forward. Pulse steady. 7 minutes. I just had to survive 4 more while they built their own gallows. The music died on Karen's cue. 300 faces turned toward the champagne tower like obedient soldiers. Karen dragged me forward, positioning me right beside the table, right beside the blue folder. She draped an arm around my shoulders, python hug. Crowd coup. To them, it looked maternal. To me, it felt like a noose tightening. Everyone, Karen's voice projected like a seasoned politician. We're thrilled to celebrate Brianna and David tonight, but we also wanted a moment of honesty for our community family. She looked at me with theatrical pity. Our dear Ava has had such a hard couple of years. We all know about the struggles, the stories, a few chuckles. She keeps telling us she's engaged to this mysterious man, rich, handsome, successful. But funny enough, on the night of our community gala, he's nowhere to be found. The laughter crashed over me. I saw phones come out. Sloane covered her mouth to hide a smirk. Karen shouted over it. Mark and I, well, the board decided it's time to step in. Ava can't seem to keep her story straight, and she certainly can't manage her property alone under our covenants. We're done watching her struggle. My father stepped forward, hand heavy on the folder. He tapped it twice like a gavel. We've prepared a solution to ensure community assets stay well. With the community, he looked at me. Predator smile. You're going to fix this tonight. Ava, in front of everyone, so there's no backing out later. My phone buzzed again. 4 minutes left. Karen pushed the folder toward me. Neon sticky tabs marked the signature lines, strategically placed so I couldn't read the text. The photographer moved in. Click, click, capturing the moment of generosity. The trap was perfect. Sign or be the selfish resident who ruined the gala. Sign and lose Heritage Villa, the Victorian I'd restored with my own hands. The one now booked solid as a boutique rental, pulling in more than my old corporate salary. The one Karen had fined me $500 a month for aesthetic violations until I fought back. They thought the laughter would break me. They thought I grabbed the pen just to stop the stares. They had no idea I'd spent the last 6 months turning their own rules against them. Because while they mocked my imaginary fiancé, I'd been building something real. I'd documented every absurd fine, every late-night text from Karen threatening code enforcement, every pocket dial voicemail where she and my father plotted exactly this, cornering me at the gala, using community pressure to force the signature that would fold my property into the HOA trust for the greater good. Translation: they'd drain the equity I'd built to patch the HOA's secret budget hole. Karen had been skimming dues for her renovation fund that somehow only renovated her own kitchen. The trust I quietly created 3 days ago made Heritage Villa untouchable. Ryan had structured it airtight. Even if I signed tonight, it wouldn't matter. But I wasn't going to sign. I was going to let them commit their crimes on camera. Karen leaned into the mic. Well, Ava, what do you have to say? Is he coming? The room waited for the punchline. I smoothed my dress and looked her dead in the eye. He's on his way. The laughter exploded, louder, crueler. Karen shrugged for the crowd. I told you so. My father uncapped the Mont Blanc and slid it across the linen. We tried, he said. Martyr voice. We really tried. I didn't reach for the pen. I just stood there, letting every laugh, every jeer, every lie sink into the phones already recording. They were building the stage for their own destruction, and they didn't even know the curtain was rising. You have to understand how Pinecrest works. It's not a neighborhood. It's a cult with landscaping requirements. Karen Lockwood is the high priestess. She decides if your holiday lights can go up before Thanksgiving. They can't. If your American flag can fly past sunset, it can't. And if your grass can exceed 2.5 inches, it better not. Residents who comply get invited to her book club. Residents who don't become cautionary tales of the gala. I used to be the cautionary tale. The one whose Victorian was disrupting neighborhood harmony because I painted the shutters sage instead of HOA beige. The one whose short-term guests dared park on the street for 4 hours. The one who dared question the $18,000 special assessment for Karen's new gazebo. So they rewrote my story. Unstable. Delusional. Fabricating a fiancé because no real man would put up with someone who couldn't even follow simple rules. I stopped sharing my life the day Karen showed up with a tape measure to my front lawn at 7 a.m. I went underground. I bought the trust. I hired Ryan quietly. I let them laugh because every mocking joke proved exactly why they didn't deserve to meet him. 3 minutes left. Karen clapped. DJ, music down. It's toast time. The spotlight hit me. The folder lay open like a guillotine. My father pushed the pen closer. For the community, Ava, sign. I smiled the soft smile of someone who has already won. I'm not signing anything tonight. The applause died. Silence crashed in. Karen's laugh was shrill. Oh, she's teasing again. Always the comedian. She grabbed my wrist. Nails digging. Stop playing games. Everyone knows you're going to sign. I yanked free. No. My father slammed the table. Champagne glasses rattled. That's enough. You're making a fool of yourself. You're unstable. You can't even manage a relationship. Now pick up the pen before I have the board declare you non-compliant. The room gasped. He'd said the quiet part loud. Karen doubled down, voice trembling with fake concern. She invents things to cope. First, the imaginary fiancé. Now, imaginary boundaries. She thinks she can hoard her property against community standards. But we all know the truth. She's unwell. And we're just trying to protect her from herself. The blood roared in my ears. I clenched my fists until the pain grounded me. Then I looked straight at Karen. My boundaries aren't imaginary, I said clearly, voice carrying without a mic. And neither is my ownership. My father laughed. Ownership? You don't own anything anymore. Ava, we corrected the title last week. Clerical error from your aunt's will. It's already done. He held up the forged page. Perfect county header. Perfect forged signature. Perfect everything except the notary block that literally read, John Doe. Commission expires 2030. A stock template. They'd gone to Kinko's. I held the paper up so the front row could see. John Doe? Really? Dad? His face went white. Karen froze. The room shifted from amusement to confusion. Phones rose higher. And that was when the heavy oak doors groaned open. The cold November wind swirled dead leaves across the polished floor. But nobody moved to close the doors. Ryan Hale walked in, not striding like a movie hero, but with the terrifying calm of a man who bills $850 an hour to dismantle HOAs. charcoal suit cut like armor. No tie. Eyes scanning threats the way a general scans a battlefield. He didn't look at the crowd. He looked at me first. "Are you okay?" he asked. Voice low. "Just for me." I nodded once. He took my hand, warm, solid, real, and turned to face Karen and my father. The silence changed flavor. This wasn't confusion anymore. This was recognition. The imaginary fiancé was 6'2" of very real corporate law. Karen's smile twitched like a glitch. "Who are you?" "This is a private community event." "You're trespassing." Ryan adjusted his cuffs. "I need to confirm identities before we discuss the documents you're presenting." He recited them like court docket. Karen Lockwood, 58, HOA president, currently under investigation for misallocation of dues. Mark Thompson, 62, board treasurer. Sloan Thompson, 32, marketing consultant who created the fake Ava Davis official email account yesterday at 4:17 p.m. from the coffee shop on Main. He knew everything, because while they'd laughed at my phantom fiancé, Ryan had been building the case file that would bury them. Karen laughed, brittle. "Hi. She's my neighbor's daughter. She doesn't need representation." "Given the last 10 minutes," Ryan said smoothly, "I'd argue she needs it more than anyone here." He picked up the blue folder by the corner like toxic waste. "I represent Ava Sinclair regarding Heritage Villa and the fraudulent filings attempted this week." "Fraudulent," my father sputtered. "That's slander." Ryan pulled out crisp pages. "This is the county clerk's digital trail. 3 failed login attempts from an IP registered to your home address. This is the trace showing you downloaded a legal Zoom template, forged his signature, and forgot to replace John Doe in the notary block. And this," he held up his phone, "is the pocket dial voicemail from Karen 3 weeks ago where you two discuss cornering Ava tonight, using Brianna's engagement as cover, and filing the transfer Monday so she couldn't undo it." The room was graveyard quiet. You could hear the wind outside. Phones were recording openly now. Karen tried the victim pivot. "He's manipulating her. Can't you see Ava's vulnerable? She's been fragile for months. This stranger got into her head, turning her against her own community." Ryan waited for her to finish, then unlocked his phone. "October 12th, you texted Ava claiming her father was having heart palpitations from the stress of her business and needed power of attorney. October 14th, you called her bank pretending to be her. November 1st, you emailed threatening to tell everyone about her breakdown unless she sold to the trust. I have the audio files. Would you like me to play the part where you discuss the tax benefits of seizing her equity?" Karen made a small choke sound. Sloan tried to laugh it off. "Okay, wow. So dramatic. Seriously. Everyone, it's just a misunderstanding." Ava gets so intense. Ryan cut her off with one word. "Sloan." She froze. "I wouldn't touch that cake knife." "We're not done." He pulled another page. "Tuesday, you created the impersonation email to divert legal notices to your parents' house. IP trace, geolocation, Instagram story, time-stamped scheming. That identity theft. Felony." Sloan dropped the knife. It clattered like a gunshot. Brianna stood up from the head table, tears cutting through her makeup. "You used my engagement party to steal her house. You told me it was a gift. You made me thank her." Karen shrieked. "We were protecting the community standards." A voice from the crowd. The councilman my father had been schmoozing cut through. "This looks a hell of a lot like theft." "Mark, forcing a signature, forging documents, in front of 300 witnesses." Karen snapped fully into monster mode. She abandoned the mic, abandoned the Pearls and Pearls Act. Her face twisted ugly. "You think you're so smart hiding behind some trust? Look at you. Ava, standing here alone, fighting your own neighbors. That house is the only thing that loves you back. Stop acting brave. You don't have a fiancé. You don't have anyone coming to save you. You're 35 and making up stories. It's sad. Everyone's laughing at you. She waited for me to break. I smiled gently instead. I told you he was coming. I raised my hand to the DJ booth. Cut the lights. The spotlight died. The barn went semi-dark. Then the heavy oak doors groaned again. No, they were already open. Ryan had never left my side. The gesture was for dramatic effect. And it worked. Every head turned. I looked Karen dead in the eye, giving him his entrance. Ryan didn't need a second entrance. He was already here, holding my hand, radiating the kind of quiet authority that made Karen's pearls suddenly look cheap. But the lights coming back up revealed the full picture. 300 phones recording, the councilman shaking his head, Brianna crying in her fiancé's arms, and my parents looking smaller than I'd ever seen them. Karen tried one last desperate swing. This isn't fair. We were only trying to. Fairness, I said softly into the mic someone had handed me, is just accuracy. I stepped forward until I was inches from her, close enough to see the fear behind the rage. I wasn't unstable. I was quiet. There's a difference. I was quiet because anything I said got twisted into proof I was the villain. I was quiet because I was building something you couldn't touch. And you hated that. You hated that I didn't need your approval. I turned to the room. You call me difficult because I have boundaries. You call me alone because you can't imagine a world where someone loves me without wanting my property. But you were right about one thing. This ends tonight. Ryan opened his briefcase and pulled out the single certified document with a gold embossed seal. You can put your pen away. Karen, the papers inside that folder are worthless. As of 3 days ago, Heritage Villa and all its assets were transferred to the Heritage Preservation Trust, an irrevocable entity. The bylaws require a 30-day notarized board resolution for any transfer, meaning even if you'd broken Ava's hand to make her sign tonight, it wouldn't have mattered. She doesn't have legal authority to give you the house. You try to rob a vault that was already emptied. My father's folder slipped from his fingers. Papers with their neon tabs scattered across the floor like confetti at a funeral. The realization hit them physically. Mark slumped. Karen's face went gray. They had staged a public execution for a prisoner who had already walked out the back door. The crowd shifted from spectators to jury. Mrs. Abernathy in the front row started typing furiously on her phone. The councilman turned his back on my father. Waiters stopped pretending not to listen. And then the real avalanche began, dozens of phones now live streaming. Karen looked around and saw the lenses pointed at her. She saw her garden club friends, her neighbors, her carefully curated kingdom staring at her like something rotting. The weapon she'd used on me for 2 years, public humiliation, had been turned around. She'd brought 300 people to witness my destruction. Instead, they witnessed hers. This isn't fair, she whispered, real fear cracking her voice. I looked at Brianna. I'm sorry about your party. You deserved better than being used as bait. Then I turned to Ryan. He offered his arm. Shall we? We turned our backs on the champagne tower, the scattered papers, and the family that had tried to consume me. As we walked down the center aisle, the only sound was camera shutters and one awkward pop song the DJ had started in panic. Happy. It sounded ridiculous and perfect. Outside, the cold Hudson Valley air hit like freedom. I stopped at the edge of the gravel drive, closed my eyes, and breathed in pine and snow and my own life. Ryan squeezed my hand. You okay? He asked, echoing the question he'd asked inside. I opened my eyes and looked up at the stars. I'm not imaginary. You pull me close. No, you're very real. Let's go home. You have a business to run. We walked to the car, leaving the barn. The HOA, in 35 years of being the utility room in someone else's fantasy in the rearview mirror where they belonged. The drive back to Heritage Villa felt different. The winding roads that used to feel like escape routes now felt like coming home. Ryan kept one hand on the wheel, the other holding mine. Neither of us spoke for the first 10 minutes. We didn't need to. The silence was full of everything we'd survived. When a Victorian's porch lights finally appeared through the trees, sage shutters glowing softly against the night, I felt the last knot in my chest loosen. This house wasn't just wood and stone anymore. It was proof. Proof that quiet resilience beats loud control every single time. We parked. Ryan killed the engine, but didn't move to get out. He turned to me instead. "You were terrifying in there. In the best way." I laugh real, not the tight smile I'd worn all night. 30 years of practice being the family scapegoat. Turns out it makes you scary good at waiting for the right moment. He leaned over and kissed my forehead. "They'll try again. Karen doesn't know how to lose gracefully. Let her," I said. "The trust is ironclad. The evidence is filed. And next time she shows up with her tape measure at 7 a.m., the security cameras will greet her with a very polite cease and desist from Ellison." Vance and Hale. We stepped inside. The house smelled of fresh cedar and a lavender I'd planted last spring, both approved now that the county clerk had laughed Karen out of the office. I kicked off my heels, poured 2 glasses of the good Cabernet I'd been saving for a night exactly like this, and we sat on the restored window seat overlooking the garden that had once earned me a $2,400 fine for unauthorized floral rebellion. Ryan raised his glass. To boundaries that actually hold. I clinked mine against his. To the moment the HOA Karen finally meets someone who reads the fine print. We drank. The silence settled warm and earned. Outside, the first flakes of snow started drifting past the windows, soft, quiet, unstoppable, just like the revenge I'd taken tonight. Because here's the lesson I learned in 35 years of being the difficult daughter, the problem resident, the woman who supposedly couldn't manage her own life. Proof never protects you when people are committed to misunderstanding you. Receipts, timestamps, notarized trusts. None of it matters to a Karen who has decided you're the villain in her story. The only thing that works is leverage. Real, ironclad, already in motion leverage. I'd spent 6 months building that leverage while they laughed, documenting every violation of their own bylaws, recording every threat, moving my life into a trust they couldn't touch, and keeping the one person who saw me clearly completely hidden until the exact second their cruelty was on full public display. They thought my silence was weakness. It was preparation. They thought my imaginary fiancé was a desperate lie. He was the sniper waiting for them to step into the crosshairs. And they thought the community would always side with a woman wearing the president's sash. Tonight, they learned that 300 witnesses can become 300 jurors in the blink of an eye. Somewhere in Pinecrest Estates right now, Karen Lockwood is probably pacing her perfectly beige kitchen, pearls clutched in one hand, phone in the other, trying to figure out how to spin this. My parents are probably staring at the cease and desist Ryan hand-delivered on the way out. Sloan is deleting her Instagram story titled Scheming. And me? I'm sitting in a house I saved, next to the man I no longer have to hide, drinking wine I paid for myself, while the snow falls on a lawn exactly 2.7 inches tall, just to remind the universe I can break their stupid rules and still win. The HOA can keep its beige paint and its 2.5-inch grass. I'll keep my freedom, my fiancé, and the very loud, very real laugh that comes from watching a tyrant realize her kingdom was built on quicksand. Because in the end, the quiet ones don't stay quiet forever. We just wait until the spotlight is on them, and then we turn it up until they burn. Thank you for watching this HOA Karen story. If you've ever been fined for the wrong shade of shutters or threatened by a power-tripping board, drop your own horror story in the comments. I read every single one. Where are you watching from tonight? Feel like if justice feels this good? Subscribe for more Homeowners Association revenge stories. And I'll see you in the next one, where another Karen learns the hard way that some residents bite back.